Oh, we got him. Let's go. Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Storm Sage coming to you with another YouTube video, and I had the pleasure of jumping into the closed beta for Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, and it was a pleasure to play. It was actually way better, and I'll tell you why from my experience when first jumping into Phantasy Star Online 2. Also, I'll be going over some of the initial information, my first impressions, as well as some things that you guys should know, quick tips and stuff like that. So make sure you keep in tune by the end of the video. And then also I'll have gameplay footage in the back, in the background while I'm speaking. And in the comment section below, let me know if you guys are looking to pick this game up. It's definitely on my radar, and it's something that I think I'm going to be playing in between now and, that's right, Endwalker for Final Fantasy 14. Again, if you like the content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That's all I'm going to say. And let's go ahead and get into the first portion of the video. That's right, character creation. So character creation within PSO2 New Genesis was robust and great. And it was a very nice thing to see. If you remember PSO2's character creation or lack thereof, there was options in that version. But again, I'm going to keep referencing this throughout the video. That is a 6 to 8 year old game. Okay, so a lot of things have been maybe trickled down and updated, but mostly content, not the bare bones of the game itself. And so the character creation gives you multiple options. You do have to pick between 4 different races. So the races were the human race, of course. Second class is called the Newman Class. The Newman Class is excel at wielding photons and are well suited to roles that allow them to do so. They compensate for their physical frailty by making sophisticated and expert use of their photon wielding capabilities. So they are better at handling the photon weaponry in the game. And so that is the Newman class. Now the third class that came out is the Cast class. Cast class was labeled as powerful machine bodies, making them well suited for extended engagement. So kind of tanky individuals. They are physically tough and have great potential for both melee and ranged combat. However, their ability to use photon is lacking. So they do have reduced photon abilities. And so they are more in line for physical tank sword style combat and the long range combat that just doesn't utilize photon abilities. So that's your Cast class. Also, to explain how they look, the robotics, the male figure is like literally a small mech. It looks pretty sweet if you get certain certain colors and shaders on that bad boy. And then the girl has the basically the robot look to her, where she's all kitted, all in the robotics, and then she has the shield, kind of like the little skirt made of individual propellers, and it looks great. It looks great. For many reasons as well. A lot of people tend to play these two classes. And then the fourth class available was the Newman class, or I wonder if it's pronounced demon, but it's Newman. Using humans as a base, Newmans were created through photon research. Distinguished by their horns, they tend to harness photons for offensive use. While they may lack in defense, they are fierce on the attack. And so Newmans is kind of has a demonic / horned figure look to them. They also had the women also have color eyes. What really caught me was the eye color changes, reminded me of Sasuke. And so they, multiple head figures had different eyes that you could switch to. So that is the initial information on the classes that you can choose. There's just 4 classes. Now, the actual character creation was great. So they had many different styles. You had many different head faces. I did not see the skin darkening tab while I was looking through it. I didn't spend too much on the character creation because I wouldn't, this character that I create, you know, it's the closed beta. We're gonna have to recreate them on the day of when the game releases. So I was like, I'll just go ahead and, you know, go through the stuff, go through the information, kind of go through, look at different things. Now they did have a nice faded look that I really like, might go with it to really accentuate the ways that I got. But they had a nice little fade look. So I feel like they have some different ethnic ethnic looks to them that you can add. If you're not into the robotic girl type thing, etc. But they had everything for every spice of life. I've seen a couple other people go out of town with with the character creation right now in the beta. You can really make it look as beautiful as you want, and you can really make it look as disgustingly ugly as you want. All of the appropriate sliders are there, breast size, butt size, thighs. You can do it all in this creator. So you're gonna see a lot of very outrageous anime looking women character creating, and even some people are making very butch looking people as well. So it's great. There's a lot more options, I'm sure, for every slice. I looked through, try to see if there wasn't anything available, wasn't anything there. It seems pretty open, and it seems like you can do whatever you would like to do, whether you affiliate yourself with male or female, doesn't matter. You can create what you want to create in this character creation. One of the last bits of the creation piece is the class. So right now, the base classes they give you are 6. One is going to be the Hunter class. The Hunter class came in a class geared towards close range combat. They excel at engaging enemies in close quarters, boosting high HP and defense. They can hold their own when operating solo. So a good solo class, pretty much your jack of all trades type of type that we run with in the middle. And then you have the Ranger class. The Ranger class, a class geared towards medium range combat. They use ranged weapons to engage enemies while maintaining optimal distance. They can also support other players with a range of special rounds. So they also have supportive abilities where you can shoot into your other players or shoot in their direction. Not sure, I didn't see any of those abilities when I was messing with it just yet. But it looks like with those bullets and the way that you shoot, I did play this class, and I'm gonna have a separate video for the classes, specifically the Ranger, Hunter, Force, Fighter, Gunner, and Techner, and let you know how they feel. So we'll go into that at a later point. And then Gunner is the class that I ended up going with, a class geared towards close range combat that excels at wielding ranged weapons point blank. They make light work of enemies with their great mobility and a relentless torrent of bullets. So this is the class I actually utilized the most. Was this one is the Gunner. I love guns in all games. DC Universe always use the dual pistols, assault rifles, etc. Same thing with Final Fantasy 14. I use bow and arrows. I'm a machinist, gunbreaker as well. So I love gun classes. There are they hit a certain fantasy, power fantasy for me. And so it was great. High mobility class. And it was actually very fun. Seemed very strong as well. You have the Force class, a class geared towards long range combat. They make use of techniques to assault the enemy from a distance. Making use of a variety of techniques, they can exploit an enemy's elemental weakness. I did jump into this class just a tiny bit as well. And it's your standard Warlock Mage elemental class. Nothing too crazy there. They did give you the initial abilities they did give you were fire, ice, and they had a nice lightning class. Almost makes me want to go the Force class due to that lightning class, the build up lightning. It looked amazing. I haven't seen a lightning based ability in a game like that in a long time, because that's what I do. I love lightning based classes, characters in anime, and so just seeing that and feeling that I might have to play the Force. So Force may be my main. We don't know yet, but we'll see. And then Tector, okay? A class geared towards close and long range combat that also supports other players through techniques. Focused primarily on ability enhancement and healing, he can stack any battle in their favor. So the Tector is going to be your healing kind of Templar, mage type class. As far as the combat, it's your normal healing class. There's not really much to say there. I feel like once you need a healer, because in the beta you really don't need a healer, they're going to be very, very needed, because there's a lot of things on the screen at once. And if in higher content levels, to be able to push out a lot of damage and having someone constantly heal you is going to be definitely needed. And then the last one to go over, I don't have the blurb on it, or do I? Yeah, I don't have the blurb on it, but it's the fighter class. Fighter class was a extremely up close and personal damage. Basically has the fist. Basically, if you're Final Fantasy 14, your monk class, right? So that is going to be what you're looking at, or martial arts in DC Universe. So those are going to be the classes you're looking at there. As far as the abilities and attacks, look out for that. Look out for that weapons guide for New Genesis, where I go over all of the abilities and just kind of go over my the overall feel of the classes themselves. But that's part one. That's just the character creation and the information you need to know. Now we're gonna jump over to the gameplay. Some of my first impressions of the combat, as well as the movement, which is mobility and movement is so important in video games now. Let's go ahead and kick to the next part. All right, for the next topic concerning Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, we are looking at movement and gameplay, and whether or not that's gonna hook you when you jump into the world. Now, as far as when I first started, it was a little awkward. Your dash, your sprint is on that R2 button if you're using controller, and you can hold it in and it automatically toggles kind of a sprint animation. Once you hold it in long enough, you're able to run and sprint without holding it. Also, the movement dash button, you tap it, you will dash in whatever direction you're looking to go to. Now, as far as gameplay wise, the biggest curve, I think, for most new players when they jump into this game is going to be the targeting system. Now, it's very similar to Phantasy Star Online 2's original targeting system, but I didn't check the settings. I may go ahead and look into the settings for you guys to see if there's any way to change up how targeting works, but it's very awkward at first. You utilize the right stick to switch targets. So I'm used to using the right stick as mainly a camera focusing type of stick movement, whereas in this game you lock on with L1, you lock onto the target, and then to switch up on a target, it's going to be your right stick. So if you want to switch to another target, hit the right stick. But you need to not, if you want to just focus on one enemy, like if you have a big boss in the middle, which happens a lot, and there's like a bunch of ads around you, the ads don't seem too aggressive right now. Now that could be just because we're in the closed beta, but all of the ads weren't really aggressive while I was fighting the main boss. So we were focusing on the boss. When I first started playing, my attacks would keep shifting between the small enemies and the main big enemy, and that right there, in order to fix that, I realized the right stick I was holding it to try to look at everything, get as much information as I can. There is a FOV slider on there, so you can go ahead and have at it depending on your computer capabilities. The FOV sliders seem to go pretty far, so have at it if you want. But I was able to see, I'm using the right stick for camera movement, and it actually does have a dual purpose of switching your locked target. So just keep that in mind when you're first jumping in, once the whether they have another closed beta, or if you're going to be buying the full game. Now another portion, basically your attacks are square, triangle, circle, and then you have your hold down L2. I'm using controller for this on the computer. If you hold down L2, you get access to another set of a square, triangle, and circle. Now, I didn't see anything yet. We didn't have a full array of moves to choose from just yet, but I didn't see where you could, group, double tap like a triangle square or a square triangle type combination. But right now, it looks like you have access to 6 abilities at one given time. And we only had really 5 abilities. Most of the classes, that 6th ability was just a rehash of the first ability. And the square ability seems to be your normal, this is your auto attack button basically. And then your triangle was your photon or PowerPoint spender. And then all the other ones seem to vary. But anytime you have a PowerPoint spender, you were able to hold it down. So you would hit triangle, hold it to charge it up, and you have plenty of time right now in the closed beta. I had plenty of time to charge up most of my photon abilities that use PowerPoints, and then you just kind of have to gauge it. That gauge is on the bottom left. You kind of have to look at it and see how much you're using at any given point in time. Most abilities are spammable, so that's another thing I want you guys to keep in mind when you're playing this game. When you first play it, think any one of your favorite animes, okay? Any one of your favorite animes where you see a full-fledged, full power, that's pretty much your character, okay? You can spam pretty much any ability you want. Those square abilities pretty much don't cause any issues other than building up your PowerPoints and something you want to kind of siphon, kind of switch through while your PowerPoints are regaining. The Mage had some interesting interactions because they do have that elemental. It looks like you'll get certain swords, certain weaponry that have elemental properties to them. But when I played the Warlock class or the Wizard class in this one, it really felt like those elemental weaknesses didn't patch too much of an extra punch. But I'm sure that's something that will definitely look into later on down the road when we get stronger gear. As far as the menu, right now the menu is, again, if you're on PC, you just click the ability or the item at the bottom. You have 3 slots, so 3 slots available to you while you're playing the game. So you can actually switch through 3 different character customizations at any given moment. And I thought that was really awesome. Something like that will give a little bit of extra longevity to the game, because you can build a class for up close fights. You could build a class for long range fights. And if you are like me, who likes to heal and do support type classes in these type of MMO games, I can also have a damage class when I'm by myself, and I can also switch back over to my support class when I'm in a group setting. So I always like that. The different items they had available were your normal potions. They had weird names. I'm not gonna go into the name because the name was crazy. I'm sure I'm gonna mispronounce it, but basically you have your potions, and they're littered across the map. So you have to actually go and gather those particular portions. You can buy them, but they're pretty much free real estate. If you go out there, if you need to go get like 10 of them, you can relatively quickly and have that available for you. The other item was kind of your PowerPoint spender. You can use that to either get stronger or regain your PowerPoint. So those are pretty much the basis of movement and gameplay. There was a lot of settings you can tinker with on PC version, a lot of different game versions. You can definitely want to go in there and maybe see if there's any way to turn off motion blur. Motion blur doesn't bother me for too long, and I didn't have a super long session, but there is some sort of weird distortion or motion blur, and I will be taking the survey and letting them know, hey, you guys got to tone that down, because most people that makes most people sick and they won't play the game. So right now it's smooth, much more smooth than the previous iteration. Now, hopefully, they're also getting some updates on the original Phantasy Star Online 2. So hopefully that will help. But I'm telling you, this new Genesis feels crisp, feels fresh, feels way more responsive when I'm doing high class, high action. And also the impact of the weapons against the enemies has an effect. So before, when I was playing, when I would do something, it didn't really give me any tactical feedback with the sound effects. It didn't feel like I was doing that big of a punch. In New Genesis, there's a real big emphasis on sound. The sound and what you're hearing while you're in battle is way better than the original one. And it brought me in and engrossed me into the game way more than the last one. The last thing also is the graphical fidelity that this game has. It looks beautiful, absolutely amazing. The abilities, again, an anime watcher dream, like crazy. You feel like you're Kirito in Sword Art Online, getting two, hopefully we can get dual swords and just going to town. And it feels great. It feels great when you're in there. Some of the other long range weaponry seems a little less, not impactful, but just a little less action wise. But people who play those type of roles will understand that that's just the way it goes. You're gonna get those effects. You're gonna get those huge fireballs. You're gonna get those ice waves. You're gonna get those, Odin lightning from the sky. But as far as that interchangeable gameplay, in and out, dash, quickness, those are kind of still left to be desired in those classes. And that's why I really like some of the iterations that Black Desert brought out with those mage classes. You're still doing magic damage, but they were high speed magic, kind of like spell weavers rather than just straight up casters. But everything in this game, as far as magic is concerned, is straight up caster. You still have some dashes, etc. But for example, the gunner class that I was running, not only do you have your normal dash, you also have a ability on your circle to do a flip. You can dash, flip, cartwheel. I guess it's a cartwheel, but you can dash, flip, cartwheel, dash, and do pistols. It actually has you actually have a positional advantage. And most of the enemies in the game, especially if they're over level, I was able to dodge most of their attacks as the gunner, get closer, continue to do damage. It was easier with more mobility than with the lesser ability and being at range. So that's just my personal take on some of the gameplay. Again, I actually really enjoyed the gameplay. First takes is that it's a 9 out of 10 for me. And that's, I'm be honest, I'm very hard customer when it comes to graphics, graphical fidelity, feedback, sound. It takes a lot to impress me in that area, and they definitely impressed me. So definitely if you're into like Black Desert is like the king of MMO type battle fidelity graphics, like the whole package. And I give Black Desert like a 9.5, pretty much almost a 10, but there's, obviously frame issue. This game, 9, easily 9, especially with it being, we don't have all of our abilities yet. I haven't tinkered everything with weapons and changes. So that is amazing. So keep that in mind when you're playing the game as well. And on the last bit, we're going to talk about weapons, weapon diversity, and the content itself. So missions, etc. So stay tuned as we talk about those items, and I'll let you know my final thoughts. All right, so part 4, we're going to talk about weapon diversity. We're also going to be talking about not only weapon diversity, but my idea, hopefully, for where the weapon system goes to. It looks very similar to their regular Phantasy Star Online 2, but I hope they add just a couple more new trinkets, couple new nuggets into the game as well. But as far as the the gameplay aspect of it, weapons felt great. They felt individual. They felt different. I do give a slight edge to some of the initial classes. The Knight class, as far as the Knight class are concerned, as far as the knight class is concerned, they get a block. So that is a benefit to them. Now the mage class got a kind of like a counter shield ability where they'll swipe and they can actually block oncoming attacks, projectile attacks. In practice, this was very, very specific. You have to be very on point with this ability. There was no like extra frame forgiveness. You got to do it right when it's about to hit you in the face. You got to hit the attack button. So I like that precision, but I felt like the knight's block was a little bit more forgiving. You could also hold it, but you can also counter from it if you do it at the perfect timing. So those little intricacies, I love that variance at some of the classes. My class, the gunner, got a nice little cartwheel. So you were able to do cartwheels and also the dash. So you had a little extra movement. I was able to definitely avoid a lot of the later doll attacks that I was fighting when those enemies were a little bit higher. Started off with barriers, so you have to chip them down, get those barriers off of them. I was able to do a lot of movement to get around, get away, and continue to do damage at the same time. So that was amazing. One thing that I forgot to touch on in the last part is your big anime explosion ability. Now this ability, I only did it on 2, and the gunner ability was close range. So the thing about this ability is that you have to make sure that you're using this ability when they're either stunned or they're not going to be moving for a while. I was in a group of players, and I'll go ahead and post a clip. I was in a group of players. We were doing one of the final missions, getting one of these big giant enemies to appear in the world. And once we got it appeared, I don't know how they did it. Maybe it was their special, their photon laser ability, but they were able to freeze the enemy. So the big boss guy got frozen, and that is the perfect time to use your photon laser ability. I ended up, and you'll see in the clip, I'll post it, I ended up being able to do mines. I got lucky. He didn't, the enemy, it's like a tiger from Zoids. If everyone remembers that reference, hey, God bless you. But it's like a tiger from Zoids. I go in, I do my anime style, sling my guns around, start popping. It's amazing. It feels good, especially when you get that big hits. You see those big numbers. It's a nice little added touch to get that stylish attack off. And then once you get it done, just like any type of super special in these games, there's a charge factor. You got to charge it back up. Not too sure how to charge it faster, or if there's going to be abilities, items that's going to help you charge it faster, but those are definitely going to be important for damage phases and different things like that. Now everything seemed to be class based as far as what type, not weapon based as far as what the ability did, so just keep that in mind. But anyways, as far as the next topic is going to be the mission structure. So the mission structure was interesting. Basically, this is just a closed beta, so I'm not going to take it. I'm going to take everything with a little bit of grain of salt, but basically you have side missions within your town that you can go to and basically go out into the regular world and get those completed. There is multiple towers for transportation in between each area. So if you are an explorer, a lot of people like to explore areas and kind of do their own thing. You will have the ability to make sure you click that hub one. But once you get the hub one clicked, there actually is teleporters across the world that'll help you get from point A to point B quickly if you like to just do a lot of exploration in these type of games. Now, the other aspect was there was a lot of go do this out in the world and come back and see me. Hopefully in the real game, there's more length to some of these missions. And so each mission isn't just like, go do this, come back to me, go this, come back to me. All right, now it's time to fight a guy. Of course, with the regular game, there's going to be more story involved. They didn't really get into any type of particular storylines or story quips other than you're in training to become an actual fighter for this particular area and fight the dolls, which is an interesting name, by the way, but I'm sure there's some backstory to it. I just don't know. And so we'll get more into the lore as well as we get into the gameplay. But yeah, the mission structure was interesting. One of the big notes that I saw is pretty much that last mission that you have to do that is, you know, that in the closed beta is go out, you go to this area, it's like a mountainous area region, gives you some feel of scope. And because of the ability to jump on these pads and with the glide ability, you're able to kind of float up into the air. They added a lot of height to the areas, and that gave the scale a little bit more, you know, oomph to it. You know, I'm more of I don't scale vertically, doesn't really do anything for me. I like depth scale. So going into somewhere and then realizing that there's a whole basement below it, something that adds some depth to the area rather than just, you know, a mountainous climb vertically. It's cool, but again, hopefully they have some different areas that have different aspects to them rather than just you're gonna keep going up and up. We'll see. But this one, we went up, we got up, and we defeated, you know, it was a group of us, 3 to 4. We continued to defeat enemies after enemies, helped each other defeat enemies. And then we were able to summon one of the big doll beasties in the area. And then we all fought him. Again, we all won. It was not that difficult, but it was one of those where, okay, we're going to be doing a lot of this in the open world, summoning these behemoth monsters and the gats, and then fighting them and coming back for pretty much kind of for loot and for your mission rewards. So that's cool. And again, there'll be boss fights. It looks like there's veteran enemies where they're a bigger and more health version of the enemies that you fight on some of the smaller missions. So keep your eye out for veteran enemies. Definitely need groups to get those taken out. The last thing here is that also the gameplay there was in these areas a lot of little lag spikes. That could have been my setup. It could have been me not optimizing my settings beforehand. But I felt like I heard that a while where it just seems like there was some stuttering. There wasn't a lot of crisp, you know, in those high impact areas where there's a lot of small ads and the big boss. It was hectic. And again, big need to understand the targeting system in those situations, or all of your charged attacks, your photon attacks will miss because you're just swiping left and right trying to get an idea of where everything's at, and it's switching your targeting. So in the comments below, let me know if there's any way to change that, because that is crazy. Never seen a camera and targeting system combined into one stick thing. That's crazy to me. But again, there may be a way to change that, flip it, get it fixed, and put targeting on another button. But just let me know. But that is all. Now to my final thoughts. The game felt way better first hands-on, just jumping in, than the original one did. The graphics are better, the sounds are better, the weaponry has more of an impact when you are attacking or you're attacking whoever you're attacking, you're doing whatever you're doing. So the initial pull that this game has is going to be higher, I think, than the original Phantasy Star Online 2. A lot of a game has to grab you in those first 30 minutes to an hour, okay? Either with its gameplay, storyline, or with different factors that might pull different players in depending on their likes and dislikes. The main issue on the previous game is that a lot of people's like, okay, it gets better. You gotta, you know, once you get deeper into the system, the storyline, it gets better. But the thing that they tended not to tell us is that it's really tough to first jump into the older Phantasy Star Online and feel confident about the gameplay, the smaller map composition, that old school instanced kind of one narrow lane gameplay. It's been years, and the open gameplay, the open choices, the open options, and the ability to just go out into the world and explore it is something that's so important in games nowadays. It has to be incorporated, especially in an MMO. If you're gonna tout yourself as an MMO, unless if we're getting a pure style instance anime style MMO, MMORPG, then you have to have open world aspects if you wanna fight or, kind of duke it out with some of the big guys. Guild Wars 2, WoW, you know, Final Fantasy 14, all of these other games are things that they have open world aspects, they have choices, options, and you can pretty much go through what you want to do. This game looks like it's going to kind of take those and kind of expand on what it was before. And I'm excited to play it to completion. I actually want to play it to completion after playing the gameplay aspect of it for a little under 3 hours. It felt good, okay? It felt good, and I give right now on the closed beta, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 right now as far as my first impressions. Now, that doesn't mean that that's gonna stick. I could get into the actual game and that could actually change, and this is our first impression review, and then I do always have a follow-up review once we actually finish the game, because a lot of people like to do reviews and they don't finish it. So this is just my initial. If you have any questions or if you have any comments below, please let me know. If you like the style of these videos, let me know as well. Again, if you appreciate and want to see continued coverage of Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, I'm gonna say it like that every time, then go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe for more content from your boy the Sage. And again, always follow your ninja way. Peace, y'all. See you on the next video. New Genesis.